This is a conversation with Ali Rifai. He's a podcaster, voiceover artist, and event organizer. Apart from organizing some of Abu Dhabi's biggest events, he's also the host and co founder of the Nobody's Famous podcast. In this conversation, we discuss the concept of fame, whether people deserve to be famous, the process behind starting his own podcast, and then we launch into half an hour of just incredible voices, impressions, and accents. This is no time. If you like what you see, then do hit subscribe on YouTube. I don't know why you haven't done it yet. The people who don't do it are going to get long, angry emails from me. I said what I said. If not on YouTube, then you can also follow this channel on Spotify or rate 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. We are nearly 30 episodes in, and I've been doing all the work, the shooting, the video editing, the sound editing, and the interviews itself, which kind of really explains the average quality. Once a disappointment, always a disappointment. So if you like to see me improve the quality, then do consider making a donation on Patreon. Thank you to the people who continue to do so. And the more donations you can give, I can hopefully get better equipment and also hire minions to do the work for me. That's a good message, I hope. For other forms of love and support, you can follow this channel on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, wherever you like, or follow me personally. And now, this summer, it's no time. In the movie Midnight in Paris, Ernest Hemingway says that I believe love that is true and real creates a respite from death. So, my first question for you, Mr. Ali Rifai, as silly as it sounds, what is love according to you, and what role does love play in your life and your work?
So you actually did read my blog then? You did read it?
I didn't read it. I hired people to read it.
Okay, fine. Because that's like what the kind of like the first steps of the podcast, kind of like the beginnings of, you know, where it was going, and I didn't know that it was going there. But man, that's a tough first question, to be honest with you. Very, very tough first question. What is love, man? Like,
I'm not sure what you thought. This is the tough show, man.
Yeah, it's a tough show, man. It's direct, you know. I got the cars driving by, you know. Let me think. I'm looking off into the distance, you know.
There's no easy questions to start you off, man. We go right
Awesome, awesome. No, that's how it should be. You know, I've said it many times before, but people nowadays as well, they fear that they might not have a talent, or they fear that they are not good enough, or they fear that if they try something and that they fail means that they're not good at it, you know, or they feel that taking a step that is not usually within their comfort zone, or they do something that might feel very alien to them, that this is something either wrong or this is something that they are not worthy of doing. So if there is something that you like doing, whatever it is, and you can get past the fear of failing to do that, then you can really achieve, take it by steps. You really achieve the first level, which is, okay, I can do this, right? This is it's probably made for me, and I can take the next step to making it better and making myself stronger in this regard. But that's not where it stops, because, you know, like what Hemingway is saying as well is you can't just stop there. You know, you have to really keep going and keep, you know, adding love to that thing that you really love. You need to keep going and keep pushing yourself, and everybody's goal or like limit is different, right? So you might be content with a certain amount of success, or a certain amount of fame, or a certain amount of like willpower or something like that. Some people are different. That's why it's again difficult to get out of this state of comparing yourself to somebody else's success, right? But yes, to answer your question, it extends to all these things, no matter what it is that you do. If you're a welder, you know, and that's what you love to do, and you're known for welding, then this is your calling, right? You know, people say, oh, it's not as glamorous as singing or like being like a rock star and stuff like that, but not everybody is going through the same path. And if you think everybody's walking the same path, then nobody's gonna be, you know, unique, as they say. You know, nobody's gonna have their own, like, you have this special ability to know something that nobody else knows, and you have this talent that nobody else has, and you get paid for it, or you get praised for it, and you should be proud of that. That's why I say, for example, with voiceover, people don't like the sound of their own voice. So if you don't like the sound of your own voice, you have to get away from that fear to start loving if that's what you want, if you want voiceover, that's kind of like the first step, because I used to listen to my voice and say, the hell is that?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Someone with your
normal.
voice? Oh man.
Yeah, but
If you're
before,
thinking that.
yeah, it's see, that's the thing. So people think, like you think that Coldplay was born singing, right? They have to obviously they had to practice. They have to love the sound of their own voice. They have to believe in their lyrics, in the the kind of message that they were giving, right? It's the same thing with anybody. With with me, like if I wanted to get into voiceover, I have to like what I'm doing. Like if I don't like it, what's the point if I don't like it? So it's like when you send a voice note and you hear it back and you say, "Oh my god, I sound like that." Oh my god, and you don't listen to it and stuff. It's one of the main things that if you're working to like do something for yourself and really loving something, you need to like it as well. You can't just assume people are gonna just like something that you don't like.
Is that a tough balance to create? Because when you love something, when you love your work, when you love your podcast, can you place a lot of pressure on yourself because it's not meeting a certain standard? You can get frustrated because you really like what you're doing, but it's not turning out the way you expect it to be. Is there a way to find that right kind of balance?
Yeah, there is. This happens all the time. So the first step is accepting that this is a real possibility and it's a real thing that's gonna happen to you. You know, whether it's the podcast, whether it's my podcast, whether what it was my voiceover. When let's say you're starting a new YouTube channel and you're doing something about like I don't know, like reviewing toys, or you're doing an unboxing for a lot of different things, or makeup tutorials, whatever random thing that you're doing, um, you you will start off, first of all, as we said, kind of like, it depends, right? Everybody's different, but you might start off worrying that this is like, you know this is not for you, and what are you doing? But you need to and then you see some success. Let's say you see some traction, some things going well, and people start telling you, oh, that's really nice, I like what you did in that video and whatever. And then you have a video that doesn't do well, or you do a scenario or a video that's not that great. You it's it's like the pendulum kind of swings extremely in the opposite direction, and then you start to think, oh, okay, maybe I'm not really cut out for this. And then you have this imposter syndrome thing that now everybody's talking about it and stuff. So the balance exists, and it kind of, I think for me, starts, I kind of bring myself back to this point and say, what am I really doing this for, right? I'm having fun, right? I'm enjoying it. Okay, I'll do it for that. I'm doing it for fun. I don't have to have millions of views. I'm enjoying doing it. I'm meeting people. It's part of the natural life process. I'm good with that. If you have like a base you can take yourself to, which is in the middle between like complete despair and like extreme success, and you can always bring yourself back to that, then you can start again. But it's gonna happen for sure. And like I said before, if you're anticipating a punch, if you're anticipating it, the punch is gonna feel less painful, as opposed to like you're just walking around and you just get hit, right? So it's gonna happen. You're gonna fail. It's normal. Everybody says that. I'm not the first person. I'm not gonna be the last person to say that. It's gonna happen. It's normal. But you need to, where you actually truly fail is that when you give up because you made these mistakes, or somebody is saying something that you shouldn't be doing. And like, for example, and this is no like offense to anybody, but if they have a 9 to 5 job and you're thinking of doing like something crazy and stuff like that, their perspective is different. I mean, it's the same with me. I have a 9 to 5 job. The perspective is different. So put yourself in the right frame of mind, right perspective, and always come back to like that middle ground, like balance, as we are talking about, to really just level your head and keep it cool and just keep going. And at some point you might decide, okay, it's not for me, but at least you tried, you put your effort into it, and you work on the next thing.
Tough questions bring out the best answers, Mr. Ali Rifai. This is a great TED Talk start, very
Yeah,
inspirational
exactly.
to
Exactly.
the episode, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So for your episode, I've created this joke template, like those yo mama jokes, like
Okay.
those knock knock jokes.
Amazing.
And the start of the template is, don't you find it ironic that you're the host of the Nobody's Famous podcast? And then hopefully there might be something after it.
Okay.
So are you ready for the first one?
All right,
All right, let's go. So don't you find ironic that you're the host of the Nobody's Famous podcast, but you graduated from Choueifat, Abu Dhabi, one of the most famous schools that raises famous people year upon year.
True. Yeah, it's so funny. I didn't even think of it that way, actually, if you think about it. I didn't even think like, you know, when at that time, like in school, and you don't really go so much into the future. I mean, even with my university, with AUB, like so many great people out of that university. But and again, it kind of shows you that maybe the podcast is really that kind of message that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter like what that is. You bring whatever you bring to the table is what matters, rather than where you graduated from or where you went to high school and stuff. And this is very important. Especially how we are now. I mean, I saw this very funny like TikTok Reels video the other day where how jobs were back in the day, like 1970s. You just go and you say, somebody asks you what's your name, and you're like, oh, you're hired. And now they ask you like, who you are and your qualifications, and you say, I have a master's degree, I have a bachelor's, I have so and so, I do this on the side, all this, and it's not enough. All this and it's not enough. Which is, I mean, you can challenge that by many ways and saying, oh, the population is different, there's so many more people in the world and the competition. But how are you really making these somebody feel, if you're telling them that all these qualifications, all this time they spent is not enough. So in a way, yes, it's ironic, because you're coming from a place where there's a lot of like amazing talent, but then again you go to a show where not necessarily you won't get famous people, but you get people who are talented and not necessarily, you might not know who they are, and they have a lot to bring to the table.
Let's dive into fame even further. So I've got a verse from a poem here. This is the poem called I'm Nobody, Who Are You by Emily Dickinson. So the poem goes something like this. I'm just taking a small verse. I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? How deary to be somebody. How public like a frog. To tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. So let's explore fame as you do on your podcast as well. Do you think people deserve to be famous? Is the idea of fame important in today's world?
I don't know if deserve is the right word. I mean, everybody deserves to be heard. I think that's the better way to put it. Fame, it's one of those things where, and I'm not saying that I don't think about this, and obviously I do think about it, but fame is one of those things where you really, really want it. Like, it's something that you desire. People want that attention. I'm talking about generally. I'm not saying like, everybody is like this. I'm saying in a general sense of a term, when you think about fame, people think about these certain things, like you want to be famous, you want to be around those lights, you want to be around all of this, maybe, at the beginning, you think paparazzi and all these, the attention that you're getting and a rising star and all the money that you're going to make and stuff like that, which is great. I mean, that's what fame is. But to say that everybody deserves it, there's things that people kind of like miss. Like, you lose certain things also when you become famous. You lose one of the things that are taken most for granted, which is anonymity. And it's something that is taken so much for granted that you lose the fact that you could walk or down the street or go to a restaurant and just do that, right? Maybe one day, we're human in the end, so everybody has their limits. So you lose the fact that you could go and do that. I'm not saying that celebrities don't do that. They do that, but obviously they have that, there is something around them that wherever you go, somebody might know who they are. So they have to dress up differently, they have to act differently. And some celebrities don't like the fact that you go up to them and ask them for an autograph, or you disturb them during their day. And if you ask like a non-famous person that thing, if by the way, if you go to the coffee shop and every second 100 people are bothering you, they tell you, no, I don't want that, right?
Yeah.
So
sorry, that's interesting. Can I just explore that? So what you're saying is, even if no one recognizes you, just the thought that someone might recognize me, and just the thought that I have to dress up for that reason, can be quite a burden, right?
It can be. I mean, if you just think about like what maybe Leonardo DiCaprio has to go through, right? Like to go out, or Jonah Hill, or anybody, Sylvester Stallone, whatever the concept is, right? This is not like to discount them, but I think we should be more aware of of their like status and the human side of who they are, you know, because they're human as well. They have things that they need to do. You know, in episode 14, I had one of my uh, great guests, Jason, and he said we all bleed the same, right? So it's the same thing. So in a way, you have to kind of appreciate or understand that they are also, you know, they're also like us. They have things that they need to do. There's stuff that I know they don't, you know, fly the same way or they drive the same way and all these things. Like this is all very different, but um I think celebrities in a way kind of want us to have that feeling that, you know, we are also, we're also like you guys. There's things that we need to do, and social media has made that like even more accessible for you to see their lives and see how they are, you know. But it must be tough living under that, you know, the spotlight all the time. You know, it's crazy to be living like that all the time. So that's why they need a break. They need, you know, people wonder, oh, this person disappeared, oh, this person disappeared. I mean,
It's normal. I specifically use the word deserve because do you think there's a benefit in giving attention, giving fame to people who are actually good at what they do? Can there be inspiration?
of course, I mean, that's where it should be. It should be placed in the right place. So yes, some people deserve to be more famous, some people deserve to be, but you see, the word famous, it can be interpreted, you know, very, it can be interpreted as good or bad, right? So that's why the word the word the fame or being famous maybe is not the, you can take it in another direction. You can say, rather than um, fame, this person deserves to be heard more, or this person deserves to be um, have more recognition. That's the right word, you know, because fame can go either way. It can go in a very bad way, and there's a lot of examples where people have been into fame like so quickly, and it's really been detrimental to them to the point of death, right? And we will never know the actual story of people that have the pressures that they are under, because you cannot feel like that those emotions, right? You can't feel the emotions that a celebrity might go through. And it's part of the, I mean, it's part of the price you have to pay, you know. You, so like I said, anonymity is one of them. You also pay for, you know, the kind of pressures that you're going to be under. But of course, like, you know, in the flip side, you know, there's the money, there's the attention, there's the privilege, the access, all of these things, right? So it really comes down to, you know, we can't, you know, me and you can't decide for somebody. You have to be very well aware of what you're going through, and if you have a goal, you know, like for example, Dua Lipa, I really respect like her as an artist, because I feel she has, like, for example, she has a goal, and she's very talented and she's working on it, and you obviously you have to have a strong team with you as well, who support her vision and all that. But you know, I'm sure that at you know, at a lot of times in her day, she wants to be, you know, she wants to be alone, she wants to, you know, live her a normal life. She, you know, that's the thing. So you can apply that with any person. But does she deserve to be praised for her talent? Yes, because she's bringing a very different, like, you know, kind of like very different concept, and she's empowering, for example, somebody who wants to be in that same position. She's inspiring somebody to sing. She's inspiring somebody to chase their dreams, and that's great. You know, that's why it's very specific with like who you're. You know, role models can be dangerous, man. To be very very careful.
Do you have role models?
I do. I mean, you know, it might be a typical answer, but you know, my main role model is my father, because you know he was, yeah. But it's a typical answer, right? But it is because again, it's kind of ties into the show somehow. Nobody's famous, right? It's everybody. If you, you know, you ask general population that, oh, who's your role model? They say my father, my mom, my uncle, my aunt. They tell you, like, for example, close people in their family. Do you know them? You don't know them personally, right? That you don't actually know them. They're not famous, but that yet this person has an impact on somebody's life, and you're interviewing that famous person, for example, right? Even if you ask Kim Kardashian, right? I mean, her father was also like a very important figure, right? I'm sure he, you know, his influence, I mean, she shows it. So I'm talking about even Kim Kardashian, right? And that goes to show you that you don't have to be famous to make an impact. It's just proof that you don't have to have a certain status, that if you're not online, or if you're not flying on a private jet, or you're not you know living the high life and stuff, that means you can't make an impact. It's just proof that really sometimes you the people in your life are the ones who genuinely they want to support you. They know you have dreams, you have to do XYZ to get to ABC, whatever it is, you need to get to a certain place. They know that and they support you, and those are the people that deserve to be heard. And it's kind of one of the reasons why we did the show, is that people like that are not being listened to, and they're just behind the scenes. And people say my role model is my father, and then they talk to you about it, and they give you this idea about it, but they don't really, they don't really talk about that. They don't really talk about the sound engineer sitting, behind that amazing Rolling Stones show that just happened. Whereas obviously it's them. They're the stars, and they're doing the best that they're doing. That's what they're made for. As well, those people play a role. The people, the drum tech, the guys who built the stage. It doesn't, it's not like a snap of the fingers and things get built. Again, I just feel like those are the people that also need to be heard. Like somebody building like a skyscraper building, putting the foundations and going up and making all those plans, and the architects sitting in the room. Those are the people that have as well interesting stories, and they've inspired others. Just talk about Dubai, right? All these landmarks, all these different things. It's all mix of inspiration, and those people like deserve to be heard.
I find it very fascinating, this evolution of role models, because everyone who comes on the show, I ask them, who are your role models? And I find increasingly people our age, it's mostly people they know, family members usually, or brother, father, mother. That's been a great inspiration. And I find that this death of this, it's not really the death of the celebrity culture, but death of this role models that people used to have in the past with superstars is maybe because of the internet. Because now that we've seen the human side of every celebrity, we know that we only like them for their talent in a certain sphere. We like athletes when they're performing, but not when they're speaking or something like that. So while in the past you only had access to that person on TV, rehearsed interviews, scripted, so you've thought, oh, that person is larger than life, and you used to always look up to them and have posters in your bedroom. But within our generation, I feel like even when I sat and thought about the question myself, I couldn't come up with a name, because every single person I thought of, I was like, oh, but he had showed racist tendencies in 2005, or this person's a bit arrogant. Now we know so much about every single celebrity that it's impossible for me to really look up to them.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, like, everybody, like I said, like everybody's, you're not looking at like an alien species, right? Everybody's doing like mistakes. Everybody's making mistakes. Everybody has like pasts. They have secrets. They have mistakes that they've made, and because how the world was back then, it's on TV. You don't really have the full picture, and then now you have the internet. You go on and you realize, oh my God, this person that I was supporting for years, doesn't mean that you are bad. It's just some information that you didn't know. You can choose to make a decision now, and that's up to you, right? But the shift is, yeah, definitely there's family members, and people are saying, okay, role models and stuff, but doesn't mean you should have only one role model. You can have role models for different types of things that you like to do. For example, for me, when it comes to voiceover, I haven't researched much about him a lot, but through Pablo Francisco, actually, I found out that my role model is somebody like Don LaFontaine, who's the
Movie trailer.
the movie trailer, Dune coming 1986. This summer's got Brady Bunch written all over it. This but I only knew of him because of Pablo Francisco. That's the funny thing. And Pablo Francisco, for example, is a comedian who is amazing at his voiceover impressions. Frank Caliendo, you can have different like people in your mind who can help you achieve a certain level. Role models, that it's the word maybe kind of implies that you should probably maybe have one or two, but you have to, like, if you want to become a fuller person and kind of understand your craft, you really need to like try to get learnings and sources from many different places, and it will help you. I mean, everybody knows that. I'm not saying something genius. It's
Now, this
new.
might be shocking to quite a few people.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well,
Don't you find ironic that you're the host of the Nobody's Famous podcast, but in your day job, you work, you've organized so many big events, concerts, Fight Islands. We've met a lot of athletes and musicians. Is that also the reason why you created Nobody's Famous? Because you saw the human side of so many superstars of this world, and you saw that they also have a human element to them.
Yes, it does. I didn't think of it I didn't think of it at the time. It just fell into place that the show kind of,
Subconsciously building within you, I think.
yeah, it's not something that I planned for. It's not something that I planned for. The way the connection was, I differently or ironically, was that my colleague who was working with me, I told him about my blog, and I told him that I have a section where I like to talk about the interesting people in my life, because entrepreneurship always fascinated me. And he said, well, instead of writing about them, how about you do a podcast? And the thing is, I never listen to podcasts. And disclaimer, I don't even listen to podcasts now. It's not like an audio.
People are tuning out now.
Yeah, there's like,
Man,
what?
he doesn't even listen.
He doesn't even listen?
He's on a podcast.
I'm
and
sorry.
He's not even going to listen to this one.
Yeah. No, definitely. But I mean, what I'm saying is, it's people, they experience media differently, right? Like for me, this medium, like the audio medium, it wasn't for me. Like if you tell me songs and music and stuff, that's different. I watch a concert like on YouTube, for example, of like this artist performing. That's different. But to just listen, it just wasn't for me, right? It wasn't.
Can
it
we
wasn't,
explore this?
Yeah,
I have
we
two
can.
questions based on this. The
I
first
want
one.
to finish answering your first question, though.
Oh, damn. We're going through.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but since we just touched upon this,
Yeah.
the first question on this is, okay, let's start with the writing part. Are there any benefits of directly moving from writing into podcasting? Are there any skills that directly translate into podcasts? Because this is not a journey that a lot of people, not many podcasters are writers before that.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps with the question writing, I think, and research. So when I was writing, like I had different sections in my blog. I will write about like just life in general, anything. Like I walking down the street and I see something that I thought, I can write about that. That was one section. I used to write about video games, and I used to write about technology and entrepreneurship, and all of those things like require research. Any writer will tell you, like, you need to research. Like you have to add your touch, but you have to research. So researching helps, because it helped me research or have my way of searching more about the guests, for example, or asking them like the right pre-show questions, so that when they send me them back, they send me certain things that now I can create even more questions from those. So it helps with researching, and it also helps with writing questions, I think, because once you get into writing, and everybody will tell you that it's hard. It's hard to write. And one of the reasons why I kind of like decided to do a show, because I can express myself better I can change very quickly what I'm trying to say while I'm doing this, rather than writing. I was a perfectionist, which is very bad. I would spend like a lot of time editing, re-editing, and re-editing the edit, and then I would have like a bunch of 8 people that I would send it to, let them read it, and then they give me edits. It's just too long a process for me, that in my mind I wanted to make things a little bit faster, but also a bit more fluid, and even the exposure is definitely less, when if you're starting out, as writing. So you can transfer writing question skills and research. And I would say, like, even with my work, it translated a lot of kind of other skills: coordination, planning. Some of the basic things that you would do at work, you can translate them into directing a podcast, and producing it.
Second question was, you don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Not going to listen to this one as well, unfortunately. So do you
Not
think
true.
that gives you a better perspective, because you're viewing it from this, not even, so what you're trying to do is, you're not creating the best podcast out there, you're trying to create the best watching experience. So it's just the best show overall. And that can really set it apart. In a way, you're also creating the anti-podcast in that sense, because you know exactly what you don't like and why you don't listen to it. So you put the video element because you're a visual person. Same reason why I put it as well, even though I do listen to podcasts. We'll be listening to this one. But do you think it can work to your advantage, or there's a disadvantage because good podcasts are good
Podcasters. Or
podcast I don't know what the
yeah,
plural is.
no, podcasters, podcasts. Yeah.
Podcasts.
Yeah.
Do you think good podcasts are good because of a certain reason, and it's worth emulating them for that?
Yeah, this is a great question. I've been asked it before. Actually, it was offline. It wasn't even on a show. Somebody asked me that question, because I was telling them the disclaimer: I don't actually listen to podcasts. And actually, she said it. I didn't even answer. She said it. I think that's great because it gives you maybe a different perspective. So to kind of like preface my answer with this is that because I'm a visual person, I would like to watch, for example, I watch a lot of John Oliver, right? I watch John Oliver. I like to watch a show or somebody explaining something where I can see it, but it can be somewhere in the background. I can listen to it, right? Um, it's just that the world of podcasts, I haven't delved in it too much. I've had some shows where I've listened to them only. They were not, visual, but it's not the medium that I choose. So I like the word that you use, the anti podcast thing, because for me, it's kind of like in a way, like our benchmark when first starting was kind of like how Joe Rogan would do it, where there's the guest, and then there's the host, and then it's switching between the two. It was kind of the template that we followed and did the benchmark on, and it was kind of the condition that I told Alex, if we're gonna do this, I want video. I don't want it only audio, because the other side to that is with video you don't get this. You don't get.
And they're missing out, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't get you don't get my hands moving right now. You don't get me like
They didn't
doing
get to see
that
Ali, man. That's
yeah,
a big
I mean,
loss
this is
already.
this is like a minor thing, but I'm saying like you don't get somebody's expression when they answer a question, and when they and like for me, like I grew up on like stand-up comedy. I grew up on movies like The Last Action Hero. We had it on
the
Laserdisc.
Yeah.
We had it on Laserdisc, man, and it was an experience to sit down and watch something, right? Radio, don't get me wrong, like I love radio and doing the voiceovers and all that stuff, but also it really depends what you as a content creator want to do. If you are a podcaster and your sonic experience, as Omar from Dukan Show says, your sonic experience is great, then that's great. But what we want to do is do both. Give you the best sonic experience with the best visual experience. I mean, that's from the technical point of view. But for me, I always say, like, when somebody asks me, I tell them it's a podcast, but it's a show. For me, it's a show. It's it's a visual experience of you sitting down and seeing somebody's expressions, the laughter, the pain, sadness. You can see it, right? And I've one of the shows that really emphasized that was one show that I did was episode 17 with Amjad Shakir, the Sudanese singer. What was interesting about it is that when I was talking to him about humbleness, right? And how does he say so humble with the kind of status that he has and all that. And he was using his hands to explain how that whenever he goes up, his close group of friends would push him down. Just that small hand movement it can maybe click more to the audience rather than an audio, just hearing him say that. And then just to close it off, another reason why it's like that is I try my best not to insult the intelligence of my audience, and at the same time give them the option, right? Give them the option. You want to listen, you can listen. Because we have it. And you want to watch, you can watch. And Alex he's a sound engineer by trade, so I've said this on the It Was Worth It podcast. Like, we want to give you the best like technical experience when it comes to listening and watching. So it of course it adds another layer of complications with video, because you have to cut, and the audio is a bit easier because of I'm talking about if it's a show, if it's talking. If it's something like Kerning Cultures, it's different, because they do, like, there's acting, there's sound effects, and there's many podcasts out there that are like that. So it's not to just discount. Podcasts wouldn't exist if making audio was easy. And to be able to create this kind of like audio experience where you can just listen to something while you're driving, and it's like a murder mystery, or it's like you're out in the desert and there's like some kind of thing that's happening, that takes time, and you don't get to see the visual part of it. That's where I don't like it. Like, I want to see the visual part. I want to see the visual part.
There's a thrill in leaving something to imagination, though, I must say.
Of course, and that's
it's like
why
reading books.
Of course, I was just about to say the same thing. Like, I just jumped into starting reading books because I'm also not a reader, And I just started to get back into it, and it was in parallel with me watching a show, and it actually the show was better because I was reading the book. So for sure, thrill of imagination, thrill of not knowing and visualizing it into your mind, it's great, definitely. But in the end, you have an audience who might experience like your show for the first time by listening to it, and then they watch it. Oh, there you go. You gave them two sides, and they had a different imagination of how it would sound. So that's why instead of just having one thought of how it would be, they have the actual experience, their imagination, and the thrill of imagining it by like listening to it or something like that.
So I would like to give you the I did distract you and I did interrupt you with two additional questions. So we were originally talking about fame and how you were surrounded by so many famous people and subconsciously that directed the show. So I would love to give you that opportunity again to complete the point, but I will also add another question there. Why do you think our current evolution of fame is such that certain industries, certain spheres are the ones that get a lot of fame? So if today you ask me who are the most famous people, it will be athletes, boxers, footballers, and then actors, singers, but not so much people like you mentioned, architects out there, engineers, researchers, scientists, not the songwriters itself. Why do you think that is? Why do you think specific entertainment industries, not even entertainment as a whole, because you have theater actors who don't make that much money, sculptors, artists, painters, still not that don't get that much fame. Why do you think we've settled into this current evolution of fame where only these industries get fame?
Yeah. So I'll answer the first question, which was more about the, it was more about work and being around those types of people. How the podcast kind of came to be. Yeah, it was like I said, it wasn't something I was planning for. It happened. It so happened that way, and it was like you said. Maybe it was building subconsciously within me, but it gave me an opportunity to really just see a different side of because at the obviously it's just my personality was like that. There are people. There were moments like when I was working and I really like saw this celebrity and I really want to like be part of that experience. And there were times where I got the chance, but it just in my kind of like personality, I tried to maintain as much as I can um professionalism and that kind of like cool head. I mean, there was one time, I remember 2011, I think we had like a lot of amazing concerts happening back to back, and one of them was 30 Seconds to Mars. Okay, and I was walking backstage and Jared Leto passed by me and said hi, and that was before all of this stuff that people know him for, you know, and this shows you like how talented the guy is. But that moment, he was, he's just down to earth, right?
Yes.
As opposed to his name, the name of the band, which is
Yeah.
just amazing because then it shows you that really in the end, like these people, they start the same way, they even start even less than where you were, they can start less than where you were. I mean, his story, like, is also, they started from very little, and there many people are like that. And it's a shame that somehow you have to, amazing or these famous people had to start from such a very, you know, bad background to be where they are. It's a shame that, and that's where the middle ground is. If you're in the middle ground, sometimes it's probably bad because you end up settling. It's not bad, but you know what I mean. Like when it comes to exploring talent and stuff, you have a lot of pressure that people bind these things to you. So yeah, it was just like with work, it was probably a subconscious thing. It wasn't something I was planning for.
And then the evolution of why do you think fame is more given to?
Yeah. So on that question, which I really like actually,
Thank you.
it's a great question because like okay, so fame, it's a very interesting question. I have to try to answer it properly. Like when you talk about athletes, you talk about singers, right? Now there is there's two ways to look at it. I think maybe two ways. There's the skill, right, and then there's the financial part. The financial part, I think, I start with that, plays a very big role because these celebrities. When we're talking about singers, or you're talking about an athlete or something like that, they have the talent, right? They grew up playing the game that they love or singing the song that they like, right? Out of pure passion, right? Pure talent. This is like, the person wakes up in the morning, they're born, right, with a mic in their hand, right? Singing, right? They're just born doing that, right? they were made for this sole purpose, right? Cristiano Ronaldo was made for the sole purpose of doing that, right? But then I think from the financial aspect, you have, whether it's the celebrity themselves or there's somebody external, they can look at it and say, you can make money from this. You can make a lot of money from this. You can make crazy money from this, you know? And then you have this external sphere that takes this talent and then puts it into overdrive, right? And to be able to reach that level, you know, that's, you need to have as many people as possible knowing that person, so that they reach that level that wherever you turn, you know this person. You know, there's some merchandise that this person made. I'm gonna buy some. I mean, goes a lot with the consumer, consumer like society that we live in now, the consumerist cycle and all this. It's part of that, but people can still discover these people out of pure talent, right? So you don't have fans that are, you know, you have many different levels of fans. For example, Cristiano Ronaldo, right? There's so many different levels of being his fan. You can be like a guy that I know who wears t-shirts of his face on it, right? And when he takes a free kick, he takes a free kick like Cristiano Ronaldo, right? You can have that level. And funny enough, irony, we actually met him, me and this guy, we met Cristiano Ronaldo, but we don't have any photos to prove it. So you can take me at my word. So it was a fun experience, but it just goes to show you that I was somebody who, like, still at that time, because I had worked in my field, I was still like maintaining a certain, you know, level of excitement, whereas he was off the moon. I mean, he recognized him from his hair, you know. So it was crazy experience.
Even Ronaldo would have been like, "Who's this guy? Doesn't even, he's so cool. He doesn't even know.
Yeah,
You even know who I am."
Yeah. So you have different levels of being that type of fan. Music is the same, right? People come out of this with that pure skill, and then they say, okay, people need to hear this, right? And it may come from, you know, it comes from, obviously, from a place of really wanting that person to succeed. You know, when you have a certain type of artist manager, and then you can have a certain type of artist manager where they just see money, right? They just see money. And then the second aspect of it is the skill, right? Again, nobody's born equal, right? Nobody's created equal somehow. We're talking about talent-wise. You can be born normal, and then you have to nurture that talent. Sometimes maybe people are born with a talent. I don't know how it works, right? Everybody is equal, but when it comes to talent, you need to really put in the work, you know? So, and nobody's born under the same circumstances. Let's face it, right? Let's face it. Nobody's born in the same place and they go to, okay, here you go, start. You know, it's not like that.
Beautifully put, Mr. Ali Rifai.
Long answer.
These long questions require long answers. To wrap up the topic on fame, don't you find it ironic that you're the host of the Nobody's Famous podcast, but you look like a better version of Jake Gyllenhaal?
Oh my God,
Or,
this is...
Our Swedish name is apparently Jake Gyllenhaal. Apparently.
Oh, really?
That's how you say it. I don't know. I don't know.
Nice. I have been told that I look like him. I have been told.
I wonder why.
Even in the last...
I say better version.
Yeah. Well, Jake, if you're watching this, you know, I'm a big fan. This is Shalaj, okay? This is, you know, I've watched.
He's definitely watching.
Yeah, and I mean, I even in a previous podcast that I did, I was told the same, and you know, it's I'm happy to be compared like to him. He's a great actor, super talented. He does a lot of like weird also kind of roles, but I think he really selects them. He selects what type of like roles that he wants to do, and it's interesting because you can even apply that to your own life. You know, you there's certain like shows that you want to do, or certain types of talents that you want to pursue, and it's important versus like you do like there's celebrities who might be great in the past and then now they have to just accept any role. You know, like it's kind of like a cycle. So yeah, I mean, okay.
If you had to look like anyone, it better be Jake.
Why not?
Gyllenhaal.
Sure. Yeah, Gyllenhaal. Yeah, sure. Why not?
So let's travel back in time. It's the 1990s. You're sitting at home eating a Happy Meal from McDonald's and watching The Last Action Hero. And I believe that's when you first started getting an interest into personalities, voices, accents, impressions. Then you went to Choueifat. You met Mad Shad's, Charlie's Omi. Like I said, famous people keep coming out from Choueifat, and then you guys used to fool around a lot with accents as well. What are some of your favorite impressions, accents from when you were growing up that you still do today?
Me on the spot here. I mean, obviously, like the most most impression that I like to do now, because I'm trying to perfect it as much as the movie trailer voice. So it's just
Let's hear it.
yeah, it's just one of those things where you can light up a room, or you can just say it and somebody might feel interested, or they're like fascinated by it. So um it was just part of that. And as I said, Pablo Francisco really just opened my eyes to the whole thing. So I was doing the intro to your show, and it's like, welcome to No Time. It's no time like no time. Shalaj, the host and producer, so you just, and it has that amazing like feeling, coming to a theater near you this summer, June 2020, now in HBO Max, well, 2021, because Dennis Villeneuve had to move it, so stuff like that, and then when I would drive, like, for example, I'm driving to Dubai or something, and I see like an ad or something, it just adds more to this.
You
kind of
read in
like,
that voice?
yeah, either in that voice or you read it in the promo voice. So this is another like impression that I like to do. Cartier now 70% off.
Yeah.
That will never happen.
The ad voice.
Yeah, you just do the ad voice, and you just do it something like that.
Yeah.
So
Terms
you
and
drive,
conditions.
yeah, you drive, and I did that actually for tickets. So it's like, coming to a theater near you, Marvel Cinemas. Buy your tickets now from Fandango.com. Terms and conditions apply. It's always the last part is like super fast, right? And it's just funny. And I started to do, we started to do like other impressions. I need to think of them now because you put me on the spot. But I do like a bit of Gandalf, from Lord of the Rings, so it's like, when Frodo comes and he says, "You're late," it's this, right? This is this thing, "You're late," and then he just looks up and he says, "A wizard is never late nor early. He arrives precisely when he means to." So stuff like that. And I mean, Arnold is not something that I know how to do well, because Milton, the guest that I had on my show, he does it way better than me, and he taught me a little bit about how to do it, which is like you have to the voice is down here.
Yeah.
You have to do the
Four.
So he really taught me this, and I was like, yeah, that makes a very big difference. And I learned a lot from actually a person that Matt Schatz collaborated with, which is Barzan Jafar, and he taught me, like, you have to always have like a trigger word to get you like into the character. So you can do like an Australian person, and then you need to just say some trigger word that will get you into the accent.
What's your trigger?
Which
for
is like for Australian, it's "how you going," because that's what they say. I mean, everybody knows that, right? So it's easy to click.
Yeah,
So
cracky, mate.
"You're on, mate. How you going?"
yeah.
Just got my esky down at the barbie. Just
Shrimp
pick
on
up
the
some
barbie.
bees. And just
He's
do
a
that.
wonderful sunny day.
So you all have to just have that kind of like a trigger word. And he taught me, like Barzan taught me about Dr. Phil, for example, trigger words. I've done that a couple of times. He did it on the show. His trigger word is "what the problem is." I learned this from him. It's just amazing, Barzan, how he noticed that. So it'll be like, "You see what the problem is? You have a problem. Do you want to take this outside?" So it's just you use it, and that's a way of like Keanu Reeves. I mean, for example, I don't even know how to do it properly, but
I've never heard of Keanu Reeves' impression.
I mean, I learned from Pablo Francisco, whoa, it's that kind of stuff, right? He does that, but I believe when we die, those that love us will miss us. It's something like he has this very like chilled vibe, right? There's all these different types of, you need to add to it your own, obviously, like Mad Shad's knows, you've seen him do it, but a lot of that is you have to add a lot of the mannerisms of your hands, and you have to move, you have to do that, like Bernie Sanders. I believe that the 1%, gee whiz, he does that stuff, right? Like, gee whiz, how come all these people don't have universal health care? It's just, so the hands will add, it will add like another layer of the impression that then becomes a bit more believable. So you need the trigger words, You need the hands.
How important is it to not perfectly impersonate someone, but to exaggerate it just
Of
slightly?
course.
You know,
Of course.
it has to be just on the borderline. You don't want to say 1, 2, 3. They're 4. You want
Yeah.
to say 4.
There is always that trick.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you have to always add that.
Because
stuff.
that exaggeration is that everybody does. Everybody does the kind of like that kind of impersonation. So another good impersonator is Jay Farrow when he does like he does Eddie Murphy or he does like Chris Rock and stuff. But like the thing with him, he's like spot on, you know. He does the thing perfectly, right? But he's perfected it to the point where you can get to that point where it's copy paste, right? But if you're just starting out, you need, if you say trigger words, I mean the trigger words is kind of like the key. If you say things that you know that this person says, then it can be easy. You know, like I'm impersonating like somebody you don't know, which is a movie trailer voice, but I'm telling you trigger words. So like coming to a theater near you this summer. This can add, you know, Jurassic World, created by Steven Spielberg, and he doesn't want to have to do anything with it anymore. You know, stuff like that. You just then you add your
Yeah.
touch to it.
You
at
can
the
do
end.
honest trailers. You watch that?
Yeah. I used to. That's
Yeah.
actually, believe it or not, one of the subconscious inspirations,
Yeah.
probably, because I used to watch them all the time because they exactly what I had in my mind, you know, of making fun of these things was part of that. You know, it was part of making fun of, like, you know, Peter Parker. You know, making fun of those things. You know, it was. I would see these things and say that's pretty funny.
What I've learned is that you learn an impression better from someone impersonating that person rather from the person himself.
Yeah.
So people doing an Arnold impression, you learn more from them rather than Arnold himself.
Yeah, exactly. Because and I think it has to do with, so the way that I mean, people who impersonate or do impressions and all that. I think they have a certain, they have their technique, right? My technique might be the same. I don't know, but I was explaining it the other day. Is that I try to mimic the sound of what's being said rather than try to, I don't know how to explain it, but try to impersonate. So if something if it sounds a certain way, I'll try to
Think of the sound.
think of the sound
and
rather
get it
than what the person is saying. So I know that a southern accent might sound like a Southern American accent might sound like this, so I make the sound that way. You know, I go down to the country, pick up my truck, get my moonshine, drive down to the country with my truck. You know, so you do that, and then you start to go, God damn, you know, it's just. So I try to, and it comes with practice, because then you don't need to think about what I'm saying. You know, I don't need to even think about what I'm saying. So you just with practice it becomes natural. But then if you're starting out with an impersonation that you want to do, my technique is I try to mimic the sound. You try to, you know, Jon Snow, you know nothing, you know, stuff like that. You know, you try to mimic the sound. It won't be perfect the first time, you know. I'm the leader of the Night's Watch, you know. So it's, see, Night's Watch, you know, it's going up, you know, for those Game of Thrones fans, you know, it's always, you know, like, you know, I drink and I know things, you know. There's always like, you have to practice. It doesn't come out perfectly, you know.
This is the perfect time to go into a game segment.
Okay.
So
Great.
I've got a voiceover game here. All I'm going to do is list out accents,
Oh, no.
impressions, people. I would love to hear your best version of it. All right, let's hear the, the Arab sports channels, NBC Action,
Oh,
KSA.
yeah. Okay. There's one that actually Matt Chads used to do, and I liked it a lot. So it was just really good. It's on the NBC Action or NBC2, whichever you want. You know, it's like, which is the Batman, the Dark Knight trailer. So I'll have a part of it. So it's like, رجل الوطواط هو لا يخاف الليل هو لا يخاف شيء. الآن على NBC Action 9 KSA على NBC Max or whatever, you know. And the trigger word, which is somehow at the end of it, is the 9 KSA, which is like 9 KSA time. That's the trigger word for me, because that's always the thing I hear at the end of the.
They always stress the country so
Yeah,
much, right?
They only say KSA because obviously it's a big market, right? So they need to emphasize that, but that becomes a trigger word, you know. 9 KSA WWE, you know, and it just becomes so excited, like, what's going on, you know? And it's like John Cena or Seth Rollins, you know, like that, you know. So yeah, I like them because they're exaggerated. I like them because they're cheesy, you know, because they have this this thing, and it works. It works. I mean, that's you grew up on movie trailers like that. You grew up on coming to a theater near you, and now it's all the actors speaking. It's just text on the screen. Will you survive? But I'm reading it, but there's nobody saying it, right? It's just like, will you survive the next night? Doo-doo-doo. We didn't survive. It's just it's just the actors that are speaking. So,
Okay, next one, and you mentioned it, Batman.
Batman. You want me to do an impression of Batman?
Let's see the Christian Bale one.
Oof. I tried. I used to do it before. Why do you want to kill me? I mean, I've done it before, but people do it better than me. I did.
Currently, you're the best one in the room. Don't worry.
Really? Yeah, in the room. Yeah,
I'm not very hockey fan.
and
No one's
Joker
buying
would
that.
say, "I don't want to kill you."
Oh,
it's
that's
like,
amazing.
yeah. I used to do it way better before. I used to do it.
Wow.
It was like. It was-
Imagine how much better it would be if it's so good right now.
Yeah, I used to do it.
Bane,
way
do you
better.
do Bane?
Bane? Yeah, Bane. I used to do that as well when The Dark Knight came out, and all that trilogy was part of the whole experience. So it's like nobody who cared nobody who cared who I was until I put on the mask. I mean, it's
I found a trick that when you use a like a mug to it, then it's like
yeah, you can.
It gets that.
Yeah.
It gets
And it was actually very different to if you heard the original version, it was very different.
And then they changed
they
it.
changed it. Yeah.
They
So
made
again,
it
like
worse.
just Well,
I couldn't hear it when I was
Yeah.
watching the theater. I
Yeah.
remember I was like, I didn't understand half the stuff.
I mean, it just goes to show you that like he's a great actor because he can portray his emotions through his eyes, and he has many like kind of scenarios, like even Dunkirk, same thing. He was a pilot. You don't see him speaking; it's just his eyes. But it just goes to show you that you can do the scenes a certain way. You need to do some touch-ups or changes along the way. So
I tried to get into Michael Caine impressions when I was watching the movies. Man, that's tough.
yeah,
It's,
Michael Caine.
Every cow
I did
wearing
one. I have one section which he says, it's don't want to be the person I told you so. But he says he does like the Batmobile then. That's the one that my friends used to ask me to do in university because he would always say the Batmobile then. When Bruce Wayne asks him.
I do a very slow one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good too.
So I have next. I just thought of something when we said the British accent, Michael Caine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you had it now. So British. I mean, I could do. I don't know if it's.
Do you do the Cockney one?
Yeah, but I can't differentiate that much between. I've learned actually how to do a bit of the Liverpool accent.
Let's hear it.
But do you want a chicken and a koch? That's what. Yeah, it's either chicken and a coke, and you use those as the
Go into the store.
Yeah, the tricky your trigger words should be like those, but it's not that great, because it's very sing-songy and I like it a lot. Some people's ears are bleeding right now, but I'm saying like I like the sing-songy part of it, but it's apart from that, you going to Leicester, like that's Leicester Square. What's this? Trying to go to Leicester Square. Yeah, Leicester. Yeah, take the tube down. Take the tube. But I learned that from Rex Navarrete, who's a comedian as well. He's a Filipino comedian, amazing guy, and that's how he would do that impression.
I couldn't tell, by the way, these accents, the difference, because when you're growing up, it's all English for you. So it's like most of the shows you used to watch are American, and even with the American accent, there's such a difference with New Yorker accent, West Coast or something like that. It's the Southern accent. So I never knew, and then I started hearing about the British accent is so hot from all the women, and because One Direction was big back then. So when I went to the UK, I was like, this is normal English. When they're just like, we like a bottle of water. And I was like, yeah, that's English. And then I realized when I went to the US finally in 2014, and one guy came up to me on the street. He was like, hey guys, would you like to try some weed? It's good. And I was like, okay, now I see it.
Yeah, but the thing is that, see, look, like, for example, Fred Armisen, I think he was on a show once and he was doing like impressions of places in like of accents in the States. Yeah, you know which one I'm talking about. Yeah, and that the interesting thing about that is that he when you're impersonating, and I don't do it well, but when you're like, I'm still like kind of like still amateur level, but when you start out, like he's impersonating the personality within the impression. That's what you need to be aiming for. You need to aim for the personality.
Yeah, you need to know if they're aggressive, if they're warm. And
so
put that in.
And you can even show a different side of an like if, like we said, Arnold is always like shouting and whatever, you can show the different side, like he usually speaks down here, so you can show that side as well, and people won't expect it and say, wow, that's a different take on the impression.
Okay, let's hear news anchor.
News anchor?
Yeah.
Man, why'd you make me do this? Coming to you live, this is Channel 7 News. We've got some reporters in the field. The weather's not doing too great right now, but I think we'll take a quick commercial break because I need to go pee.
Let me give you two to wrap this game up. And one is the Indian accent.
Indian accent?
Yeah. We all do it, let's face it.
Yeah, we all do it.
Yeah.
But there's with the Indian accent, there's like I like to use technology, when you, for example, you're going to the store and you want to buy a TV. So you can go and say, so how much is this TV? See. I always start with that. You have to go with the see. This TV, boss, I'll give you best price, but this one is OLED. You don't want LED because that is now old technology. So you have to you lengthen certain words, and some ones you need to do them very quickly.
Very nuanced, huh? I must say.
That's the thing. So if you want it to be believable and credible, you have to kind of find those like little like nuances in somebody's like voice and the thing that they say, because like Indians, when they are speaking, they're very, very detailed. When they're trying to explain something to you, very detailed and telling you that this is like this because of this, and you have to catch it to be able to.
It's a good observation, because when I ask people in Indian accent, they all go rata ta 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 ta. I have no visa, and I'm like,
I mean, this is like, yeah. I mean, look at the end, like people, they stereotype, right? And they stereotype because to a certain extent, certain things exist, not everything, but you want to do a nice impression. You want to make it like you want to wow somebody with the impression. You need to find the right tone. See, at the end of the conversation, you kind of like slow down, but at the beginning of the conversation, you like slow. But in the middle, it's usually fast. It's usually fast, like talking about something. So we're shifting today, but tomorrow, it's like that. So you have to.
Final one to wrap up the game, and this one you should be able to do the best. The Lebanese accent.
Lebanese? Oh my God, I hate doing it. Actually, I hate doing it, but it's something that is very stereotypical. But I like to just go with like the plain Lebanese one, because sometimes even thinking about it, sometimes I can't do it. But it just as a chance. So for example, الو ايه شربيل كيفك حبيبي شو اخبارك تمام ليك how it is, right? ليك حجزت طاولة ايه خبرتهم للبنات ايه يلا بشوفك نازل يلا بشوفك يلا take care.
أكيد man, أكيد.
He closes the phone and like, so he's your friend, like what's going on, buddy? So it's just like closes the phone. Again, generalization, stereotype, but it's just that's part of like the whole thing. You can stereotype because, I mean, it somehow to a certain extent exists, but doesn't mean that it's necessarily true for everybody. It's just it's a joke. It's a joke. Where do you draw the line? And I've been experiencing this a lot lately. I try to be a bit more forward with doing some jokes or saying some stuff on the podcast. So
take the hit. Let's see.
I mean, it's like, where do you draw the line? And I was watching.
Going to be offensive at some point.
Yeah,
anyway,
I was watching Seinfeld and comedians in cars getting coffee just because I started it and I had to finish it. And
that's a great way to watch Seinfeld.
Unfortunately, no, I really like him. I like the show, and it's like one of the things that me and my dad used to watch like very religiously. But that one, there's some hit and misses in those. Like there's some shows that he did which were great and some were not. But one interesting like overarching topic which kind of was in all of the shows is that where do you draw the line when you do like a joke, And for them, I noticed like for them it's a joke. That's their lives. That they see like a bird flying and they make a joke about it, And they see somebody falling down the stairs, they see the funny side. But then it might, like for me, like that's horrible.
If you're the one falling down,
well, yeah, it could be, But yeah, they make fun of themselves for sure. But also they touched on those topics where the news would write about them and say comedian slanders, I don't know, this this certain thing or this certain topic, And then people get pissed. They start talking about it and saying, well, where do you really draw the line? It's a joke. I mean, why would you pay to come see me to then just criticize me? I mean, you can criticize me, but what I'm saying is like you get so mad at that. It's you have to have critics, but you know how it is. It's weird, not on the mark yet. But
It all comes to circle with Seinfeld, with the wrap of the game. Before we move on to our final questions, I'd love for you to interpret what I've built with the Lego, since you didn't build anything today.
yeah, I have something built in my mind which I can tell you actually
So, what do you
from
think
the
this
Legos.
looks like?
It looks like a factory, man.
Factory of voiceovers.
Oh,
as it
nice,
is.
nice. Oh, nice. Okay, wow, you were really like multitasking there. Huh?
No, I wasn't. We're just going ahead with
This
it.
is
It is a
coincidence.
factory. Yeah. Oh, it is all a factory.
Nice, nice,
That's-
awesome, man. No,
No,
it
no,
really
that's
fits
what I
well.
was doing. I can do 16 things at one time.
Nice. Well, if you want to be an impressionist, you have to. So yeah, but I did build something in my mind using the Legos actually, believe it or not. So I was thinking about it even before the show because I was wondering if we were gonna spend some time to build. I didn't think it was during the show. So then when I told you like I want to really focus on answering the questions, it's gonna distract me. But what I did was I built a tower actually in my mind. So a tower with the limit, right? Obviously, assuming
Not
that
Burj
there's
Khalifa. Level.
no, I mean it could be that level, right? It could be that. And the analogy that I wanted to make is that in your mind or anybody and in anybody's, your listeners, people in anybody's minds, you all have that imaginary tower that you built, right? And they're all of different lengths, different levels that you think you might achieve. And like we started by talking at the beginning of the show, I don't think you should ever compare the something that you're building with somebody else that they're building. People are content with a certain length of that building and somebody is content with that certain length. And the peak also is also different, right? It's either it's you, for example, um, your aspiration might be, I need to go to base camp Everest, right? My aspiration might be I need to get to the peak, right? It's always different. And it's really, my analogy was to say like each of us have like potential within ourselves, and the tower is always different, the building is always different, it's always built differently, and there's always different ways to build it, and always different ways to plan the path that you're going to take, and the length is different, but in the end you're building something that's for you. And always compare, if you have the blueprint of that building or that tower, always compare to where you were yesterday rather than compare to somebody else's plan, which is completely different.
Yeah. The wisdom never ends when you're with Mr. Ali Rifai. Final questions. What are some books, movies, or people that have strongly influenced in your life?
We're gonna be a bit biased on the books part, but I'll start with movies. I mean, I really liked recently. I mean since I was a kid, actually, not recently, but sci-fi was a big like effect on me. Just the heroic aspect of it, whether it was the Star Wars kind of like series, and when I was a bit older, the fantasy with Lord of the Rings. I mean, I'm a geek at the end of the day, so those are the things that kind of inspired me, and just the characters, how they were very interesting, and they would band together in being able to go through a common goal or to support somebody to go there. This is some of the things that kind of interested me. As I grew older, like crime, like crime was something that I really liked. I liked mystery a lot. So when it comes to movies, the Coen brothers, the movies that they make, the Big Lebowski, was it True Grit that they did? I can't remember. Maybe butchering it, but I think they, with Jeff Bridges, Quentin Tarantino, like those type of crime movies are some of the, really like, because the storytelling, I really like the storytelling, and the characters are very, very like colorful, very interesting, different motives, and just interesting that the way they interact with each other, and how he can hold, like, Quentin can put like a scene for you, it's just the one scene, and then it completely just degrades throughout the whole movie, like Reservoir Dogs, Hateful Eight. I just like, when you can use limited resources to tell such a great like scene, Inglorious Bastards, one of them, where you have like a very disconjointed like story. It's so different with different characters, all that kind of stuff. And recently, if I want to talk about recently, and that ties into the books, I really never used to read book. I used to read a lot of like entrepreneurship, self-help, economics types of books and stuff like that. But now, I mean, the phase that I'm in right now, because I go through phases of all these things, is really The Witcher. I don't know if you know, and that's the series and the book that I was talking about earlier. That how I'm starting to read the book now is making the series better, but also because of the video game as well. That's how I actually got into it. And I mean, for those who don't know, I think what really is interesting about it is that yes, it's monsters, it's weird things and magic and stuff like that. But it's interesting to see that how a character, like the main character, is treated as like he's being marginalized and he's being, taken for granted as, as somebody who has these abilities who didn't want them in the first place, and people treat him like a freak. But in the same time, they kind of like need him to kind of live in this world to, to survive. And just the decisions that you have to make, because it kind of relates. Like I played like video games, and something interesting about it is, um, which doesn't apply in real life. You make a decision, and it's not really that binding. In a way, it's not binding. You can always go back and change it. Yeah, you can always go back and change, load a save and stuff like that. But like a video game like that, for example, it has like long lasting effects, and it's something interesting to see that you can change, and you can be as bad as you want or be as good as you want, and whatever you do, there's always like a reward or something from it, and it's just like an escape. So those are the things that I've been into recently. And yeah, I mean, I've also spent a lot of my time, I mean, out from books and movies. I spent um, a lot of time this year doing my best to either do coaching sessions for myself, or if somebody is willing to start something, um, start their own business or start their own talent thing, I wanted to help them.
Sounds great. What would you like your legacy to be like?
Great question, man.
We start with hard questions and with hard questions.
Yeah, definitely. Very weird and interesting question to ask somebody, because the legacy should be, you can choose what your legacy would be. You can choose that you want it to be this way, but you never go in life with, you can always write the plan and assume that it's going to be this certain way, but it'll always be changing. And you should, every year or every month or every day, you're going to have to change the plan. I'm sure the same thing happened with you on the podcast, no time. Same thing with me on the show. I've had to change it many times. So you can plan for a legacy and you can plan for a concept, but in the end, I think also a lot it's how the people you've helped, the people that know that you stood by them when nobody really stood with them. And there are certain scenarios where somebody needs your help and you really needed to help them. You know that it's gonna, you're gonna spend your time helping that person, and they couldn't help themselves, and you were there for them. I think the legacy that I'd like to leave is that I'm making an impact on, if somebody like can feel like they are not good enough, I can be the one to tell them that know that they are, and they can start their own business, they can start their own project, um, like ignite the voice that's within them, because that's kind of what happened to me. And I've said this before, on different interviews and stuff, that I was always searching for something that was external. I was always searching for something that I needed somebody either to help me do, or there was like I don't know, like a business I had to build or something. I didn't realize that my greatest talent was my voice. At least that I have to work on it, definitely, but it's something that was within me. So it kind of gave me this power to tell other people that don't think that you always have to look for something external. You can work for something that it's located within you. And I get advice from many people, and somebody told me once, you have nothing, you can start from it, you can start from nothing. But I would say, more grounded, uh, situation is grounded. But I wanted to, my legacy is be able to do a show in space, to do shows in space, for Nobody's Famous, go to space and do show there. That's like the uh, grounded, crazy answer. But I also want to be able to, help others, and really just showcase the best in people, and make somebody laugh, with a voiceover that make them laugh, and just enjoy that kind of, the people who really care about me, just to have them comfortable in my life. There's a lot of people that have helped me, um, and there's a lot of people who have come and went. um, it's just how it is, and that's just part of life. But I really just want to be, as successful that as I can be.
I would love to see a Nobody's Famous podcast episode in space. You can hitch a ride with Jeff Bezos whenever you like.
Oh yeah, if he accepts. Yeah.
Last question. What do you think is the meaning of life?
I saw this. I saw a bit of this when you were sending me like an excerpt of some of the questions. I was wondering, like, this is very philosophical thing, to kind of like say. I mean, people go through life, like you said, like with legacy and stuff, not being remembered, or failing, or being like crazy successful and all that. But I think life is. It's a chance. It's a chance. You have a chance to make something of yourself, and to enjoy life for what it is. Enjoy the very limited time that you have. um, Life is a chance to experience whatever we're experiencing right now, which is a very interesting, like, uh, moments in human history. It's like a very, like, now what we're living in is very, like, weird. But like, as Midnight in Paris, there was that golden age syndrome, where you always think that you should be living in a certain time, and you think you would have been better. You're alive now, and this is the kind of the world that you live in. This is the scenario that you're in. And while we may not be in, same circumstances, one of your listeners might be listening, they might be in a worse circumstance, or somebody might be in a better circumstance. um, the life that you are living right now, it's a chance for you to become more than what you are right now. Where you are right now, it's a chance for you to become better. And really, like, as I said, you can't there's a lot of people who are going to bring you down. If you think that there's this person that's in your life that you maybe speak to maybe once every 6 months, I don't know, and that person, like, really supports you, keep them in your life, and make sure that they're the ones that are supporting you, because they're unconditionally, without anything in return, that are really, like, pushing you to have the best life that you can be, that you can have. And those are the type of people that really should be, those are the people who kind of figured out what I would say what life is. They know that, the time here is limited, and they believe that, that if they can help somebody just by saying something. And that's where power of words comes from. And I had Samir Al-Jabari on my show, and he talked about Muhammad Al-Qahtani, and he did that speech about power of words. It can make a very big difference in somebody's life. You can say just a few words, and you can either ruin their life, or give them the will to continue, and to make this chance that they've been given something that is extraordinary, and coming from an ordinary person. There you go. I said the quote, our slogan, so to speak.
There we go. It all ties in. Ali, thank you so much. If people want to find you, connect with you, listen to the Nobody's Famous podcast, where can they do so?
Yeah, you can find us on YouTube, / Nobody's Famous. You can find us on Spotify, Anghami, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, of course, all these great places. And you can follow our Instagram at Nobody's Famous, without the apostrophe, just all one word, Nobody's Famous Podcast. We're on a break now with season 3. By the time maybe this year airs, I don't know, season 4 might be starting. We never know. That's a sneak peek. Season 4 is being recorded as we speak, so a lot of interesting and different content is coming up, with different guests, on the edge topics, and yeah, always bringing, like, the best out in people, and embarrassing myself, let's put it that way. It's like,
If you wanted a reason to watch it,
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Ali, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure. The pleasure is all mine, man. Thank you so much.